I remember that Master Sheng wanted really to open the Chan Meditation Center in Manhattan. That was his wish. He thought that it would be very good idea to have such a center in Manhattan. And I also remember much later myself talking with several of older members here about the same thing, because I also thought at the time that this kind of center would be great to have in Manhattan. And it seems that, as you Echo said earlier, causes and conditions came together, nature, and now we are all actually gathering here in a new center, and that is a great thing. That's a great thing. Yes, when such a thing happens, you know, the people who were not involved in the whole process, they're not really aware of what lies behind the possibility of all of us being here tonight. But actually, there is a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of work, and enthusiasm of quite a number of people, which resulted in the end, you know, in this beautiful space in the middle of Manhattan here. So thank to all of them for this. The topic of tonight's talk, I think it's very appropriate somehow to the function and purpose of this center. I don't think I know exactly the title of the topic right now. I think it is how to deal with the chaos in the city. Okay, something like that, right? And how to practice in an urban setting, and also how to build a lay community. So these are like a subtopic, and it's actually very complex topic to talk about it in a one talk. So I will just try to share what I think about it, and I will try to share my vision, or how I see the function and purpose of this center here. Okay, so first, what I think is that life in a city like New York is a very complex one, and very, very demanding. There is I think that what we can say in general about the modern life, and that is something is not quite right. Okay. Well, all right. So when I talk about the modern life, I'm sometimes defining it as a very fast pace, you know, and then lot of tension that brings lot of tension, and then that pace and tension makes our mind very scattered, and in the end we become very much alienated as well. So these are some general characteristic of modern life in an urban setting. And I'm sure that to live in the busiest city in the world, or at least one of such cities, makes these four characteristics intensify them and bring them to the very peak. You know? So that's why I think that that the life in such a condition is really demanding and very often very difficult. So because of that, having a place like this is like having an oasis of peace and harmony, where people can come and they can inspire themselves to find more skillful and more wise ways of dealing with the stressful life in a city such as New York. Yes. Okay. So this is, in my opinion, very, very important thing to have such a place for that reason. You know, when we live in difficult conditions, then at some point it becomes very difficult to bear it, and therefore we start to think very deeply about our life, and we are looking for the way out of those conditions. And that is, in my opinion, the motivation which very often brings people to Buddhism. You know, when they experience a lot of suffering in their life, and then they are looking for the way out, and they heard about the Buddhism, and they come to see whether the teaching of the Buddha can help them, you know, find the peace, find the harmony in their life, and get out of these difficulties. And talking about the Buddhism, although it is more than 2,500-year-old teaching, it is still very much actual. Can I say actual? And in a sense, modern. It is usable at this time in which we live. And it is usable precisely because, although it's old teaching, the Buddhism is trying to answer on the two very important questions. And the first one is why suffering in our life arises in the first place. And the second question is how we can alleviate the suffering. And however, the way of our life changed from the time of the Buddha, and it changed considerably in a way which is unimaginable to the people of the old times. The causes of suffering are staying the same. So the causes of our suffering are really the same. And for that reason, Buddhist teaching is a kind of medicine, something which we can use to help ourselves alleviate our own suffering. And this center does not belong to the general Buddhism, so to say. It belongs to one particular tradition. It belongs to Chan tradition. And Chan is one of the Buddhist schools, which is known for its simplicity and for its directness and for dealing with the very heart of human suffering. When I'm saying that, what I mean is that in Chan, we are not really addressing various issues and problems we might have experienced in life, various phobias or whatever. The aim of the Chan practice is to go to the very core, to go to what creates all our problems, not just particular issues which we might have in life, because those issues are innumerous. And we could spend our whole life trying to deal with one after another. But if we go to the very core, out of which all our problem arises, then we have a chance to really alleviate those suffering and liberate ourselves. So these are some characteristics of the Chan tradition and Chan teaching. Another thing which I think is very important in context here of this center is the fact that Chan is, in my view, formless teaching. It really means that it is not very much conditioned culturally, or it does not have a specific forms in which it appears, but it can take any form actually. So for that reason, Chan teaching can adapt itself to various social, political, cultural situations, and present what it really is its very essence, and that is going to the heart of human problem and solving that problem. And that's why in the West, Chan and Zen teachings are quite present, and I would say popular, among the people who are looking for the solution to their life problem. This does not mean that other Buddhist schools are less good, or that other Buddhist schools are not good enough, but Chan is a meditation school, and the meditation is the main means through which we can actually transform our mind from being conditioned with various things in life to become free from all those conditions. And it has a very, as I said already, very clear, very direct teaching and the practice which can help us actually do that. Seeing this center as a place, as I already described, like an oasis of peace and harmony, means that people can come here in order to learn about Chan tradition, in order to learn about Chan teaching, and to learn about Chan practice. And they can actually learn this practice and take this practice with them in their daily life and start using the practice in daily life. But beside that, importance of this center lies very much in the support which practitioner can get from it. Because when you learn how to practice, and then you go back your home, and if you stay alone with your practice, that practice won't really last for very long. There is I think there is a Chinese saying that when sorry, that when a tiger comes down from the mountain into the valley, that is the beginning of its end, really, because it's not its natural habitat, and it can't really survive in those conditions. Excuse me. So it is very similar with the practitioners, with us practitioners. Then we are staying alone with our practice if we don't have a community who can support our practice. If we don't have spiritual friends with whom we can share our experience, if we don't have teachers, then we are somehow out of a natural habitat of practitioner. And therefore, usually that practice doesn't last very long. So we can see from this that center itself, but much more the community which will be built around this center has enormous importance in life of everyone who will practice here. The other example which comes to my mind is from the time of the Buddha. If you know something about the history of Buddhism and the life of the Buddha, then I'm sure you heard about Ananda. Ananda is attendant monk. He was following the Buddha everywhere. He is the one who remembered all his talks by heart, and all Buddhist sutras begins with "Thus have I heard." Okay, so the person who actually heard that was Ananda. He was extremely knowledgeable, and he really knew by heart every single talk Buddha ever delivered. So at one time, the Ananda was thinking about teaching and community of practitioners, and he was sitting together with the Buddha, and it was not a question, he was more commenting on it. So he said that he thinks that to have a spiritual friends is a half of a spiritual life. And then the Buddha said, well, don't say it so, Ananda. To have a spiritual friend is the whole of a spiritual life. Now, so that is how Buddha consider a community of practitioners being important in life of everyone who really practice and follows the path. So I hope that, and I see that the community is already here, that whoever practice here will have such a support, and I hope that you will all build the relationship of spiritual friends on which you can rely whenever you need help and support in your own practice. That is very, 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 very important. This is what we call causes and conditions, actually. You know, as for plants, for example, they need, beside the seed, they need soil, they need well, water or moisture, they need temperature, they need air, they need human care if they're not in a wild somewhere. So all those conditions are needed for those plants to grow and to succeed. So in the same way, we as practitioners need the whole set of conditions. The center is one of those conditions. But the people who are taking care of the center, they are in the first line, so to say. They are also very, very important condition. And then everybody who come here for the teaching, for practice, for instruction, is also part of those conditions. And it's not that center is only helping us, but we are also helping center. Sometimes with very, very presence of ours in this place, without doing anything. Now, just coming here is a kind of support. So this is all, you know, having these conditions is considered to be very precious, very precious. And if we relate to those conditions as a very precious, then I'm sure we will know how to nurture those conditions and how to get the benefits out of them and how to benefit everyone else in the same time. So you know, practice in a city is a demanding thing. It's not an easy thing, definitely. But the first what we have to know is that in Chan there is no really this kind of duality between, you know, spiritual practice and the worldly affairs and the worldly thing. In the light of or in understanding of Chan, our whole life should be practice, and practice should be our own life. Okay? So that is very, very important to understand. So in that sense, don't think that practice is or it will be possible here at the center because conditions are perfect, and not being possible outside of this center, you know, in our usual setting. That would be a mistaken view. You know, we can actually practice wherever we are. And whenever we find ourselves, that is our place of practice. This is the understanding of Chan. And I think that such understanding of practice help us really enormously. Because, you know, even formal practice which we do in our homes, for example, every morning, is not really much in comparison with the 20-something hours on the other side of not having a practice. So if we really want to change, if we really want to gain the benefits from the practice, we have to extend that practice into our everyday life, into all activities of our everyday life. And I said that this morning at CMC, and I will repeat it here. Adding practice to our various daily activities does not really mean complicated our situation with putting something on the top of already difficult, you know, difficulties which we experience. You know, introducing practice in daily activities is about taking away from those activities whatever is unnecessary, whatever is extra, whatever is obstructing us in work, in the relationship, in anything. Okay, so practice is like a great help in that sense, because our life becomes much more simpler and much more free when we practice than when we are not practicing. When I'm saying that practice takes away things which are not necessary and not extra, I mean on all those nervousness which we feel when we have to do a certain job, thinking about what the outcome of this job will be, what the person for whom we are working will think about our job and what we are doing. You know, when we take away all these uncertainties, fears, hopes, expectations, then situation becomes very simple, actually. And we have all our energy at our disposal to deal with what is in front of us. And therefore, whatever we are doing, we become much more efficient in doing it. And in the same time, we are cultivating our mind. So we are doing two works, two jobs, you know, in a one go. And the benefits of that is really enormous. You know, so introducing, first learning about the practice, and then introducing, extending the practice in our daily life is really very beneficial. The other thing is that practice or meditation or cultivation of the mind, these are all synonyms actually, you know, is not one activities among many other activities. It's not really separate kind of activities, you know, because we are cultivating the mind, and in all other sphere of life, that is the same mind we are using. Therefore, the effects of those practice, the fruits of those practice, the result of those practice are naturally flowing into all area of our life. You know, so that is also something which I think is very good to know. So not seeing the spiritual and worldly as different, I said that's the one of the principle in Chan. Same principle actually, or how can I say, that principle we could say comes from another form of non-duality, and that is non-duality about what in Buddhism is called samsara and nirvana. That is one of the very important teaching of Mahayana Buddhism, and Chan is also one of the schools of Mahayana. So what does that really mean? Non-duality of samsara and nirvana. First of all, samsara is the cycles of life and death. Okay, that is the coarse understanding of it. You know, we are suffering in this life, and then we are reborn somewhere, and then we go all over again, all the time. You know, going up and going down, you know, in these various forms of life, depending on our karma, depending on how we actually treat others, and in that sense. Okay, so, but we could understand samsara in a more accessible or more practical way as well. We all have experience in a one day, or sometimes even in a shorter period of time, to go through the various states of mind. You know, from being like in heaven, you know, feeling very relaxed and joyful when things are going our way, okay, to the you know all range of states until we reach the states of being depressive, being sad, being under influence of negative emotions. So actually we can experience some samsara in a one day. Going like in samsara we go from one life to another, but here we go from one state to another state, and therefore we can understand that from that experience we can understand that we are not really in control of our minds, that outside conditions are very much defining how we will feel, and what state of mind we will be in. So once we realize that, we can realize that that's not acceptable, really. It's much better to be in control of our life, and having all those strings of our life in our own hands, and then leading the life as we would like to lead. So that's the time when we are looking for the teaching, when we are looking for practice, when we are looking for the ways of gaining control of ourselves, and not being subject of those unfavorable mental conditions. Nirvana, on the other hand, is the freedom from these being conditioned by outside circumstances. Nirvana is complete alleviation of suffering, and it is a goal of Buddhist practice. So what does mean this non-duality between samsara and nirvana? And I think that's crucial to understand. We are talking of samsara, and we are seeing our life being of samsaric nature. Then we are looking at our own self, on life, on reality in which we live, through the prism of our own egocentricity. Okay, when we look through that prism, then we see samsara, then we see this struggle we are going through. Then we see this not being able to control our mind, being victim of the various conditions we are finding ourselves in. Okay, and what is nirvana from this perspective? If they are the same, how can they be the same? How samsara and nirvana can be the same, and what does that really mean? Then there is no this prism of egocentricity. Then this very same world, we see as a free. We see as it really is. Therefore, when there is no egocentricity, there is no obstructions, there is no suffering, and we gain freedom through letting go of egocentricity. So the whole practice in Chan is actually oriented towards helping us letting go of selfishness, letting go of self-centricity or egocentricity, or being obsessed by ourselves, because that is the cause of all human trouble. All human suffering comes from that, And this egocentricity has its three roots. These are ignorance, greed, and hatred. And then there is a whole list of negative emotions, secondary negative emotions coming out of these three. And this is something we all have in ourselves. And from time to time we are victim either one or the other of those negative emotions. You know, so by letting go of ignorance, by letting go of greed, by letting go of aversion or hatred, we are actually letting go of causes of our suffering. And by letting go of those conditions, wisdom arises in us. And wisdom always goes together with compassion. So when we experience the freedom, compassion is inseparable from that experience. And therefore, we give our full energy to helping others, also alleviating suffering and letting go of causes of suffering. What else I wanted to share with you today? There is another kind of non-duality in Chan, and that is also very closely related to the previous ones, and that's inseparability of practice and realization. This is just a different words, but these words are directed in a very concrete way to practice itself. What that really means is that once we practice, we don't practice with our goal in mind. We don't separate ourselves on the person who is dissatisfied with itself here and with the idea of what we would like to become, projecting it somewhere in the future. Because if we do that, we would never be able to reach our goal. Now, there is one great metaphor Master Sheng used once, and that is about the feather and the fan. Okay, so if you want to catch the feather with a fan, the more you're waving with your fan in order to catch it, the farther the feather goes. Okay, and that perfectly actually describes the situation in which we are in when we are practicing with the goal. Okay, so what does it mean not to have a, does it mean that we don't have a goal at all when we practice? Not at all. You know, we enter the practice with a very clear idea of what is it that we want to achieve. But once we are entering into it, we turn the very process into the goal. And therefore, with every step you make, or with every breath you take, as the song goes, you know, you are actually realizing your goals. Okay, you're realizing your goals. When you're doing walking meditation, if every step is your goal, every step is realization as well. And then you feel content, you feel complete, you don't feel separated inside of yourself. And that is also based on another teaching in Chan, on which the whole practice actually rest on, and that is idea that actually there is nothing missing in us. You know, we are complete. You know, we have everything we need. You know, the full potential to become a Buddha is present in every one of us. Okay, so making the turning the process into goal is completely in accordance with this teaching, because we don't need to go anywhere in order to reach our goal, because our goal is already here. Okay, so that turns our whole attention to this present moment in which we are finding ourselves, and then you know, as I said earlier, every step, every breath, every moment of sitting in meditation is a realization. And there is a saying that 1 minute of sitting in meditation is 1 minute of or 1 inch of the Buddha. Okay, so that's how we can help ourselves really bring our mind to the present. So these are all extremely important principles in our everyday practice, and especially in a practice like you know very busy cities like this one in which you are living. Another thing which I forgot to say is that the fact that difference between samsara and nirvana is this prism of egocentricity and not actual life condition in which we are finding ourselves. That means that all those difficulties I mentioned earlier, which exist by living in a city such as New York, is not really the obstacle. You know, it's not really the problem. These outside conditions are not a problem. The problem is the way we see them. The problem is the way we understand them. You know, and that is very, very good news. You know, that is very, very good news. We are not hopeless in this. I'm sure very cruel dynamic of life in a city like New York. So we shouldn't be. It's not necessary that we become a victim of it. You know, changing our attitude, changing our perspective, we can change the way we understand those conditions. We can change the way we feel ourselves, and our life can be much more harmonious and smooth, despite, you know, despite the conditions which could be described as quite cruel sometimes. Okay, there is another moment which I think is important, and that is thinking that living in a countryside is like an ideal where there is no problems at all. You know, a lot of people think like that, and then they leave the town, they go into countryside, and in the countryside again they experience themselves eventually, and they again have to face their own conditions and the unresolved issues and so on. So again, I will repeat, the outside conditions are not absolute. They are not absolute. How we see them, how we understand them, that is the most important thing. And Chan is helping us actually to change that understanding through lessening our egocentricity, our selfishness. You know, then we become more open, then we become more flexible, then we become more appreciating of how other people feels and how other people are doing. Then you know, our relationship starts to change. We start to change, and as a result of that, other side starts to change. You know, there is a whole new perspective in grow in those relationships starts to happen. You know, when we realize that, and yeah, I will conclude actually this talk by saying that in Chan, we take every moment as a very precious moment. You know, in the light of impermanence, and that is something we are becoming more and more aware as we practice. Every single thing which we face in life is unique, is unrepeatable in a sense, and it is very important. You know, our life actually consists of those small, little things, not of huge ideas and plans and the projects which we have, you know, but of those small things. They are actually the fabric of our life. Okay, and if we put really in a center of our attention, in the center of our awareness, in the center of our presence, whatever is right here and now at that particular moment, what is happening is that we become aware of both. We become aware of those phenomena, things, persons, whatever, and ourselves at the same time. We become aware of interdependence between two. We become aware of how we actually interbeing, and then that realization, that insight, is actually how wisdom arises in our life. And on the other hand, if we put it at the center of our attention, I, me, mine, okay, these expressions of egocentricity, you know, then our perspective suddenly starts to be very narrow and also very, very, very squeezed and very painful, you know, and that's actually looking through the perspective of our interests, you know, and then we don't see the whole, we don't see other people, we don't see anything, we see only what we are looking for, and we think we can get it even by ignoring the feeling of other people. And this is how we create trouble for them and for ourselves as well. You know, so I'm throwing those little wisdoms from the Chan tradition here at you, hoping that you will pick some of those things and find it precious somehow, and then realizing that by taking that, introducing that into your life, you can actually make your life you know, more meaningful and more joyful and more open, and so on and so on, full of those positive qualities and positive emotions.